Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a simple truth. Success is not something you pursue. It's something you attract by the person you become. And how do you become that person? Through habits, not once in a while. Not when you feel inspired, but daily, deliberately, and consistently. So tonight, I want to share with you some habits, not fancy ones, not complicated ones, but critical ones, because without these, the rest won't stick. With them, everything else starts to change. Discipline is the foundation of all success. It is the root of every achievement and the silent force behind every goal met, every mountain climbed, and every dream realized. Without discipline, talent is wasted, potential is never realized, and ambition stays locked in the realm of imagination. Discipline is what gives structure to intention and converts good intentions into real results. It begins in the small things, not in the dramatic moments of life, but in the quiet, often invisible decisions made when no one is watching, waking up at the time you said you would, finishing the task you promised yourself you'd complete, saying no to the easy distraction and yes to the harder, more meaningful effort. Those tiny decisions shape the character of your future. Every time you choose discipline, you strengthen your ability to direct your life rather than be directed by impulse, emotion, or convenience. Most people think success starts with motivation, but motivation is a visitor. It shows up now and then. You can't depend on it. Discipline is the loyal companion. It shows up when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when you're uninspired. It carries you through the mornings when you don't feel like it, and the evenings when quitting sounds better than finishing. While motivation whispers, discipline commands. You don't have to be extreme, just consistent. Small disciplines practiced daily grow into habits, and habits form the framework of success. You don't plant a tree and see fruit the next morning. You water it, you wait, you protect it. That's discipline. The reward comes later, but only if the care comes now. One of the most powerful realizations is this: you don't have to feel like doing something in order to do it. Discipline separates feeling from action. You may not feel like writing that report, making those calls, hitting the gym, reading the book, or saving the money, but discipline says do it anyway, because when the action is right, the results are inevitable. And when you do what you know is right, not what you feel is easy, you develop the internal strength that success demands. Discipline is doing what you should do, when you should do it, even if you don't want to do it. It's the decision to act in your own best interest, long term, not in the moment, and the more you practice discipline, the stronger it gets. Like a muscle, it grows. Every time you resist the temptation to slack off, procrastinate, or make an excuse, you're exercising that muscle. And over time, you begin to notice what used to be hard becomes easier, not because the task changed, but because you did. There is no success without sacrifice, and discipline is what makes sacrifice possible. It's what allows you to trade short-term pleasure for long-term gain. You give up the comfort of the moment to earn the freedom of the future. That's a wise trade. Most people make the opposite deal. They trade away their future for a few moments of ease. That's a price far too high. Discipline also builds self-respect. When you keep your word to yourself, you start to trust yourself. That trust is the foundation of confidence. It's not loud or arrogant. It's quiet certainty. The kind that says, I'll do what I said I'd do. That kind of person is rare and valuable. The marketplace rewards them, so does life. The people who succeed aren't necessarily the smartest, the most talented, or the most connected. They are often the most disciplined. They do the work. They keep showing up. They endure the dull days, the hard days, and the thankless days. And because they do, they get to see the results that others only dream of. Discipline creates freedom. It may sound like a contradiction, but it's not. When you are disciplined with your time, you have more of it. When you are disciplined with your money, you have more choices. When you are disciplined with your habits, you have more control. Discipline is the price you pay for freedom, and it's always worth the cost. Success is not one big decision. It's a series of small decisions made every day in the direction of your goals. Discipline is the thread that ties them all together. Without it, everything unravels. With it, everything holds. Daily goals shape long-term destiny. What you do each day becomes who you are. The direction of your life doesn't change in giant leaps. It shifts slowly, quietly, through repeated action. It's not the occasional effort that builds greatness. It's the consistent execution of small intentions over time. One solid day won't change your life, but 100 of them will. Success begins when you realize that the big picture is made up of small brush strokes, and every single day is one of them. Setting daily goals is not just about productivity, it's about identity. Each day, when you give yourself a target and reach it, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who follows through. You build a reputation with yourself, and that inner reputation shapes everything. If you consistently meet your daily goals, even the small ones, you begin to see yourself as reliable, focused, and driven. But if you constantly let those daily intentions slide, you teach yourself the opposite. You learn to expect less from yourself, not because you lack potential, but because you've trained yourself to tolerate inconsistency. Big goals are exciting, they inspire us, they light up the vision in our minds. But they can also feel overwhelming. That's why the key is to break them down into small, specific daily goals. Something clear, something measurable. If you want to write a book, the daily goal might be 500 words. If you want to get in shape, it might be 30 minutes of exercise. If you want to grow your business, it might be reaching out to 5 new prospects a day. These aren't random actions, they are the bricks that build your future. Daily goals provide structure. Without them, time slips away, days become weeks, weeks become months, and soon you're wondering where the year went. A day without a goal is like a ship without a rudder, it drifts. But with a goal, even a small one, the day has a destination. You wake up with purpose, and you go to bed with a sense of progress. That alone can change the trajectory of a life. There's something powerful about finishing what you started, especially when you do it every single day. It creates momentum, and momentum is one of the most valuable forces in human behavior. Once you get moving, it's easier to keep going. But the opposite is also true. Once you stall, it gets harder to start again. That's why daily goals matter so much. They prevent drift. They keep you engaged. They allow you to keep stacking wins, no matter how small, until those wins become your normal. Now here's the secret. Not every day will feel significant. Some days, your goals will feel repetitive. Some days, the results won't show. But success is not about feeling progress every day. It's about trusting the process. When you plant seeds, you don't see fruit the next morning. You water, you wait, and you stay faithful to the process. Daily goals are the watering. They don't bring instant harvests, but they are the reason the harvest eventually comes. There's also clarity in daily goals. Life is full of distractions. It's easy to be busy but not productive. Daily goals cut through that noise. They bring your focus back to what truly matters. They make the difference between reacting to the day and directing the day. Between chasing activity and achieving purpose, they force you to ask, what matters today? What moves me forward? Over time, those answers compound. One well-structured day may not look like much, but 100 in a row builds habits. Habits shape character, and character determines destiny. That's the progression. The daily leads to the ultimate. You cannot reach a long-term dream without short-term execution. The ladder to success is climbed one daily rung at a time. Daily goals also teach you to manage your time with intention. You begin to see the value of each hour, not in terms of how fast it passes, but in terms of how well it's used. Time is the only resource you never get back. Daily goals ensure you invest it instead of spend it. That alone changes your relationship with productivity, with purpose, and ultimately, with yourself. You don't need to master everything in a week. You don't need to have all the answers today, but you do need to decide what matters today, and then do it. That's how dreams take form. That's how plans become progress. That's how daily goals, repeated with consistency, shape your long-term destiny. Reading and learning must become rituals, not hobbies, not once in a while activities, but habits woven into the fabric of daily life. The world is constantly evolving, and those who stay still in their minds get left behind. You can't afford to let your thinking grow stale, and the only way to stay sharp is to keep feeding your mind with new information, new perspectives, and new challenges. Books are mentors that never tire. A single book can contain decades of someone's experiences, mistakes, insights, and strategies. You can sit down with the thoughts of great minds for a few dollars and a few hours. That's not a small advantage, it's a massive one. When you make reading a ritual, you put yourself in a position to absorb wisdom without paying the full price of trial and error. You get to borrow experience and shorten your learning curve. Learning isn't something you finish when you leave school. That's formal education, but self-education, that's a lifelong commitment, and the most successful people in the world never stop learning. They stay curious, they stay hungry, they ask questions, they read, listen, study, and observe. They understand that their current knowledge is never enough for the next level, so they prepare their minds the same way an athlete prepares their body, daily, intentionally, and with discipline. Information is abundant today. You can find answers to almost anything within seconds, but wisdom is still rare. The difference lies in how you process what you learn. It's not just about consuming content, but reflecting on it, applying it, and turning it into action. That's what separates the person who learns casually from the person who learns with purpose. Learning becomes a ritual when you stop doing it just to gather facts and start doing it to grow your thinking and change your behavior. Not every book will change your life, not every lesson will be groundbreaking, but that's not the point. The ritual of learning builds a mindset. It teaches you to see deeper, to ask better questions, to connect the dots others miss. It expands your capacity, even when you don't notice it immediately. Reading and learning are compounding in the background, quietly sharpening your edge. One new idea might sit with you for months before it suddenly clicks in the right moment, and that moment can make all the difference. When you make learning a ritual, you take control of your growth. You're no longer waiting for someone else to teach you, or for life to force you to change. You become proactive. You go looking for the next level, the next insight, the next breakthrough. That mindset is rare and it's powerful. It puts you in the driver's seat of your personal and professional development. The environment you create around learning also matters. If you treat it like a chore, it becomes one. But if you create a space for it, a time for it, a rhythm for it, it becomes part of who you are. Maybe it's 30 minutes in the morning before the world wakes up. Maybe it's a quiet hour before bed. Maybe it's listening to audiobooks during your commute. It doesn't matter how you do it. What matters is that you do it consistently, deliberately, and with the intention to grow. Rituals are powerful because they happen whether you feel like it or not. When learning becomes a ritual, you no longer rely on inspiration to pick up a book or watch a course. You simply do it because it's who you are. It becomes as natural as brushing your teeth or having your morning coffee. That consistency, over time, builds a depth of knowledge and awareness that few people ever reach. Learning also keeps you humble. It reminds you that there's always more to know, more to understand, more to improve. It keeps your ego in check and your mind open. It allows you to evolve, to adapt, and to stay relevant in a changing world. While others are relying on what they learned 10 years ago, you're growing in real time, building new tools and thinking in new ways. The greatest investment you can make is in your mind. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose possessions and replace them, but what you learn becomes part of you. It changes how you see, how you decide, how you act. That transformation doesn't come from chance, it comes from ritual, and that ritual starts with the choice to make learning a daily priority. Associations determine direction. The people you spend time with shape your thinking, influence your habits, and ultimately affect the outcomes you experience. You cannot rise above the environment you constantly surround yourself with. If you walk with people who lack discipline, ambition, or integrity, that energy begins to wear on you, whether you notice it or not. On the other hand, if you align yourself with people who challenge you, inspire you, and hold you to a higher standard, your own standards begin to rise. Human beings are wired for connection. We absorb cues, behaviors, and beliefs from those around us. This happens subtly, through conversation, through observation, and through repetition. Spend enough time around certain mindsets, and they become part of how you think. That's why your associations are not neutral. They either pull you forward or hold you back. They either reinforce your vision or distract you from it. You must be intentional about who you let into your circle, because your circle becomes your mirror. You don't need to cut everyone off to grow, but you do need to become aware. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you feel motivated, clear, and focused? Or do you feel drained, discouraged, or off track? That emotional residue tells you more than words ever could. Sometimes the biggest shift in your life isn't something new you learn. It's someone toxic you walk away from. The right associations challenge your excuses. They don't let you settle. They see your potential, and they don't hesitate to call it out when you're falling short. That kind of environment is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Growth is rarely found in comfort. It's found in the friction between who you are and who you're becoming. The people who care about your future more than your feelings are the ones who help you grow the most, who you listen to matters. Advice is cheap, but not all of it is helpful. You have to filter the voices in your life. If someone hasn't built what you want to build, achieved what you want to achieve, or lived by the values you admire, be careful how much weight you give to their opinion. Well-meaning people can give terrible advice. Love alone doesn't qualify someone to guide your decisions. Look for fruit, not just intention. Sometimes the shift you need is proximity. Get around people who are already where you want to be. Their habits, their standards, their pace, those things rub off. You start to see what's possible. You stop making excuses. You begin to realize that your limits were never real. They were just the reflection of a limited environment. The moment you step into a room with higher expectations, your own expectations begin to evolve. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That idea is simple, but powerful. Think about your closest relationships. Are they focused or distracted, driven or complacent, growing or stagnant? Your future is hidden in your friendships. You don't rise in isolation. You rise in community. And not just any community. One that pushes you upward. Support matters, but so does accountability. It's not enough to be around people who cheer you on. You need people who won't let you lie to yourself. People who ask the hard questions. People who remind you why you started. People who make it uncomfortable to quit. Those are the voices that keep you aligned with your purpose when motivation runs low and resistance runs high. Sometimes you're the one who has to become that person for someone else. Be the friend who lifts others up by raising the standard. Be the example. Be the one who takes action instead of making excuses. When you carry that energy, you naturally attract others who are on the same path. Your circle evolves as you do. It's not about status or success. It's about values, integrity, consistency, humility, work ethic. Those are the qualities that matter in the people you associate with. When you build your environment on those values, your direction becomes clear. You don't get lost in comparison or competition. You stay focused on your own growth, supported by people who are growing too. That's the power of association. It determines what you believe is possible, what you tolerate in yourself, and where you end up. Gratitude fuels resilience and growth. It's more than a polite expression or a moment of positive thinking. It's a mindset that changes how you interpret life's events, how you respond to challenges, and how you connect with your progress. Gratitude doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means you're choosing to see value in what you have while working for what you want. That perspective gives you the strength to keep going when circumstances get tough and the clarity to stay grounded when things are going well. Most people are waiting for something big to happen before they feel thankful. They want the promotion, the breakthrough, the recognition, but true gratitude doesn't wait. It looks for the lesson in the struggle, the progress in the process, the beauty in the ordinary. When you practice gratitude consistently, you train your mind to see opportunity in difficulty. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift is where growth begins. Gratitude builds emotional resilience. Life is unpredictable. Plans fail. People disappoint. Goals take longer than expected. In those moments, it's easy to slip into frustration or self-pity, but gratitude acts as a shield. It reminds you that setbacks don't erase progress. It reminds you of how far you've come, even if you're not where you want to be. That awareness keeps you steady. It helps you face adversity with perspective instead of panic. You don't collapse under pressure. You adapt, you learn, and you keep moving forward. When you're grateful, you think differently. You stop measuring your success only by outcomes, and you start appreciating effort, growth, and persistence. That mindset fuels long-term achievement because it allows you to stay motivated even when results are delayed. It keeps your energy focused on what you can control instead of getting lost in comparison or self-doubt. Gratitude doesn't make the work easier, but it makes the work more meaningful. It reminds you that the journey itself is valuable, not just the destination. Gratitude also affects your relationships. People are drawn to those who appreciate life. When you express gratitude regularly, not just for things, but for people, you build trust, loyalty, and deeper connections. A thankful attitude is magnetic. It signals humility, awareness, and emotional intelligence. Whether in business, family, or friendship, those qualities elevate every interaction. Gratitude opens doors that talent alone can't. In a culture that constantly pushes for more money, more recognition, more achievement, gratitude reminds you to slow down and take stock of what you already have. That doesn't mean you stop striving. It means you learn how to strive from a place of wholeness, not scarcity. You can be driven and grateful at the same time. In fact, that's the most powerful combination. When you're grounded in gratitude, your ambition becomes healthier. You're not chasing success to fill a void, you're building on a foundation of contentment. Gratitude requires attention. It's not automatic. The mind is quick to notice problems, but slow to notice blessings. That's why gratitude must be practiced deliberately. It might be as simple as writing down 3 things each day that went right, or reflecting on what you've learned from a recent failure. These habits train your mind to notice the good, even when it's buried under pressure and complexity. Over time, this perspective becomes natural. You become the kind of person who sees potential where others see problems. Gratitude is not about denying difficulty. It's about choosing a wiser response to it. When things go wrong, gratitude gives you the emotional space to process, to adapt, and to stay hopeful. It doesn't mean you ignore the pain, but it means you don't let pain blind you to the progress you're still making. That resilience is what separates those who endure from those who quit. The more you practice gratitude, the stronger that inner stability becomes. There is also a quiet confidence that comes with gratitude. When you're thankful for what you have, you don't live in a state of constant lack. You're not always chasing, always comparing, always doubting. You move with purpose, but without desperation. That confidence allows you to take risks, to face uncertainty, and to keep your composure when things get chaotic. Gratitude creates internal stability in an external world that is often unstable. When you view life through the lens of gratitude, everything changes. You start to realize that even the smallest progress matters. You begin to understand that failure often carries wisdom. You become more aware of your own growth. That awareness feeds resilience. It makes you harder to shake, more consistent under pressure, and more optimistic even in adversity. Gratitude isn't a feel-good strategy, it's a survival skill. It strengthens your mindset, sharpens your focus, and gives you a better foundation for lasting success. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. Everyone has dreams, desires, and plans, but only a few turn them into reality. The difference is discipline. It's the ability to act not just when you feel like it, but especially when you don't. Discipline keeps you on track when motivation fades. It holds your course steady when distractions tempt you to wander. While talent opens doors and ideas create potential, discipline is what does the heavy lifting over time. Most people wait for the right mood to take action. They want to feel ready, feel inspired, feel excited, but those feelings are fleeting. They come and go like the weather. Discipline, on the other hand, is stable. It's a commitment, a decision made in advance that doesn't change with your emotions. When you train yourself to show up consistently, regardless of how you feel, you begin to separate yourself from the crowd. You stop being average the moment you stop relying on feelings to determine your behavior. Discipline is a muscle. You don't build it overnight, and you don't need to be born with it. It grows through repetition, through doing what needs to be done even when it's uncomfortable. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you strengthen that muscle. You build trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence, and that confidence fuels consistency. Without discipline, even the best plans fall apart. With it, even modest goals become possible through steady effort. Success is not one big decision. It's thousands of small ones, waking up early, saying no to distractions, choosing the hard path over the easy one, sticking to your schedule, protecting your priorities. These choices don't grab attention. They're not flashy, but they create the invisible structure that supports visible success. People see the results and think it happened all at once, but it didn't. It happened in the quiet, disciplined moments when no one was watching. Discipline also means doing what's necessary, even when no one is rewarding you for it. There's no applause for choosing work over comfort. There's no instant payoff for staying consistent with your habits, but that's where discipline proves its value. It allows you to delay gratification, to trade short-term ease for long-term gain. That trade is what defines champions, leaders, and high performers in every field. They aren't better than others, they're just more disciplined when it matters most. A disciplined person doesn't always have more time, they just manage time better. They don't let the day control them, they control the day. They plan, they prioritize, they make intentional choices. That kind of focus doesn't happen by accident. It comes from deciding that success matters more than comfort. It comes from valuing purpose over impulse. And it comes from realizing that discipline isn't restrictive, it's liberating. It frees you from chaos, inconsistency, and regret. There's a quiet dignity in discipline. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't seek attention, it just does the work. It keeps showing up, and over time it builds a track record that speaks for itself. People may not notice your discipline today, but they'll see the results months or years from now. They'll wonder how you made it look easy. What they won't see are the countless times you chose consistency over convenience. That's the hidden power of discipline. It compounds quietly, then it shows up loudly. Discipline also protects your momentum. Once you break a streak, it's easy to stay off track. One missed workout becomes a week. One skipped task becomes procrastination. One broken promise becomes a pattern. Discipline prevents that downward spiral. It catches you early. It reminds you of your commitments. It keeps the wheels turning even when the road feels rough. That's how you stay in the game long enough to see the payoff. When you live with discipline, you create boundaries that support your growth. You say no more often. You limit distractions. You avoid drama. You conserve energy. That focus makes your work deeper and your time more valuable. You're not just busy. You're productive. You're not just active. You're aligned. And in that alignment, progress accelerates. You stop wasting effort on things that don't matter. You channel your discipline toward what does. The truth is, most of what separates winners from the rest isn't extraordinary talent or luck. It's the decision to keep showing up, keep executing, keep improving. That decision is made daily. Discipline is what makes it possible. It creates structure in a world of chaos. It gives you the edge when others fold. It builds your capacity to do hard things, not once, but repeatedly. Discipline makes you dependable. It makes you consistent. And in the long run, it makes you unstoppable.